Hi, I'm Anne-Sophie, and today we're going to look at a concept that's really useful when you're creating images and videos with artificial intelligence. It's called consistency or visual coherence. Now, it might sound complicated, but don't worry, it's actually very simple, and you'll see that it's really practical. If you need to create images and videos with recurring settings and characters, let's take a look at that right now. So why is this important? First, it's just like if you were reading a comic book or watching an animated video, following a story, and then suddenly your main character completely changes their appearance, their clothes, or even their location, you simply wouldn't recognize them anymore. This sudden shift would make it hard to keep up. And at that point, you're lost. And so you won't be captivated by the story. That's really where consistency comes into play. Try to maintain a very strong sense of visual coherence to keep your viewer fully engaged. So, to help you better understand this concept, I imagined the thrilling and imaginative adventures of a brave young adventurer, a powerful young superheroine, and I applied it directly in Create, without making any other adjustments, simply by generating the images at intervals of just a few minutes each. And you can see that the result is overall quite different. So why does this happen? Because, in fact, the artificial intelligence, the tool, will constantly reinvent the faces, the postures, the style. A few reminders before you get started. Actually, coherence happens on several levels. First, it's going to be the choice of your tool. And we're going to advise you to choose one in particular. Well, just one. Next, when it comes to choosing your tool, it's really about defining your style, your model. You'll see why. And finally, we'll focus on this part. It's going to be about the coherence of your character to your main character or your characters. So, for you to grasp and appreciate the importance of the tool and the style, I decided to reuse the same prompt, and in fact, I applied it to several different tools. And you can see that with Rhea, Dream Studio, Leonardo, the result is generally quite different. That's why, and you must have seen it in the previous tutorials, you'll often be advised to use a main tool for generating your images and to focus on the same model. Every time. Even if it means repeating it in your prompts if the options aren't available in the advanced settings. So now I'm going to suggest some solutions to help you maintain consistency in your character. Why the character? Because that's what's going to be the hardest to keep consistent, especially with characters that have a human appearance. It might be slightly more than characters with a cartoonish appearance or animal, and especially for characters with a rather realistic photographic style, because there will be many more intricate details on the face. I'm going to suggest 3 different solutions to you. The first will be to use the most fundamental and basic approach, a highly detailed description of your photographic image. A quick note beforehand, think carefully before generating your first photo, the one you're going to choose. It's really absolutely crucial and fundamental because it's the one that will be used to generate every single one of the subsequent images of your characters. So, settle on an image, but before choosing it, take a moment to reflect and think very carefully, because this will be the primary image you'll keep for the rest of your adventure and the entire narrative of your story. So here are 3 possible solutions. The first will be to use a detailed description of this photo that you've chosen, which you'll use for everything else. And you can use tools to help you do this. And you'll be able to utilize this specific description to generate all the other images with variations. The second solution, still using the image you've chosen, will be to eventually selectively modify only certain specific elements or the background. If you really want to maintain true visual consistency, that is, an identical face from one image to another, there are several effective solutions available to you. Finally, the third solution will be to show you some tools. These platforms have built-in options that will allow you to maintain perfect consistency for your projects. So, for your detailed description, you can easily use the help of powerful AI tools, for example, ChatGPT or Gemini. It works simply like this. First, you will upload the specific photo you have chosen for your design. In my case, I'm keeping the photo I generated of this superheroine, and I'm simply going to ask it to give me a detailed description. And you see, ChatGPT gives me a description with everything I need. The description of the face, the costume, the lighting, the style, etc. And so I'll be able to use this to generate my images. And you see in the Crea tool, I simply reuse the prompt that ChatGPT gave me, adding a small variation to the background. And you can see that the result is overall really interesting. The character remains very close to the original, and yet it did add a new background for me. And this is without having used any options, like consistency or other settings. So a quick focus on the seed. What is the seed? You may have noticed it in some tools. To be more precise, the seed is a specific numerical value, an algorithm that will either be generated automatically by the tool or that you can manually configure on your own. See, and it actually allows you to permanently fix and stabilize the prompt parameters, model, dimensions, and style when you generate your images. Let's say you generate 4 images at the same time. If you lock the seed, it will really allow you to get very similar results across those 4 images. On the other hand, if you don't have a seed, it will offer you variations of those 4 images while still following your prompt, but the results will be quite different. So it's up to you to decide what might capture your interest more effectively. For example, in Google's Image FX, where I locked the seed, you can see that among the 4 generated photos, the results are remarkably consistent. The second suggestion is to carefully modify the original image by completely removing the background, and then subsequently adding a new background, but while trying to keep the execution consistent. To accomplish that, you can utilize a powerful online tool called Dream Studio, which allows you to easily remove the entire background from any photo you choose quickly and easily. So let me show you right away what it looks like. So here you see I'm in the Dream Studio tool and I've uploaded my photo. And right here, actually, you'll have a little Remove Background tab that will allow you to precisely cut out your subject from the photo and completely remove the background. And then the very next step will be to add a brand new background of your choice. And in Crea, there's actually an editor function that will let you do just that. So what does it look like? I'll show you right now. So here you have an edit function. Here you'll be able to upload your photo. And once you've uploaded your photo, which is already cut out, you can go to Change Region. And there's a little brush here. Then you just need to paint around the entire outline. So I'll keep this very brief. I'll show you the result directly. Make sure you go over every part. And then once you've really gone all the way around, so here I haven't done everything, but don't hesitate to go all around, covering all the white areas around the character. Even if you have to go a little over the hair here, and then you'll put the description you want for the background and you'll generate it. And this will simply allow you to replace the background, giving you a result that's quite satisfying. So there you go. It's a bit of tinkering, but it can be useful, especially for certain scenes in your story if you want to keep exactly the same face. The third available solution is to utilize specialized software tools. These will automatically provide you with this solution to ensure total consistency. So as I was saying, there are several tools that already offer this. However, more often than not, these tools require a paid subscription to access this feature. For example, I found tools like Crea, which offer you a variety of different options. I'll show you exactly how that works right now. In Crea, you'll be able to upload a reference image. I've imported my photo and then I simply added my prompt. So don't forget to set it to 16:9 as well. And so you'll see there's a slider system from 0 to 1. Here's what I recommend. As for the slider, 1 is the maximum. That means the image follows very closely. You get almost a remake of the same image with very few variations, so it's not necessarily very interesting. The level that's going to be more interesting is the intermediate level at 0.5, where the image serves as inspiration for the style and features of the character, but the background or the action requested in the prompt has more freedom. Finally, you'll see the slider at 0.1, 0.3. So it will have a relatively minor influence, meaning the image mainly influences the overall visual style and the character's appearance, but the prompt more strongly dictates the scene. Thank you. And the composition. Here's what it looks like. If you use a slider at 1, as you can see in Carrier, the result will generally be very close. The background doesn't change and the character changes just a little bit, but overall remains quite similar. So it's not necessarily interesting. At 0.5, the background has indeed changed and the character remains really very similar. And at 0.26, but as you can see, the background has a bit more visible detail. So there you go. The prompt has become a bit more descriptive, taken into account for the background. All right, so now let's take a look. In Dream Studio, it provides a reference image upload. So it's somewhat similar to what we saw in Crea with a reference strength slider. So you'll see that right away. So here in Dream Studio, I set the slider specifically to 0.5 using a highly detailed prompt where I just asked it to change the overall emotion in addition to the background. I gave it the exact same lush forest background as we used before in Crea. And in addition to that, I asked it to add a specific emotion where my superheroine is looking rather happy. And as you can clearly see, Dream Studio took that instruction into account exceptionally well. My prompt about the emotion while maintaining a level of consistency with the character that's quite impressive. So here she does look happy, but on the other hand, as you can see, the background hasn't been changed. So the tool is going to be interesting, but unfortunately, it's mainly going to focus on the character. So you see in the tool, it's going to look like this. Here I've uploaded my photo. Then I enter my prompt and set this slider to 50% between 0 and 100%. So I'm going to leave it at 50% and it generates for me an image that's quite close in terms of the character, but mainly focused on the face and not necessarily on the background. So now I'm going to show you a tool that for me is kind of my favorite when it comes to the consistency option. It will offer you a reference upload, so you'll upload a photo and you won't need to make any other adjustments. It will all happen automatically. I'll show you that right away. So you see the final result and then I'll show you inside the tool. So I uploaded my photo as a character reference, and as you can see, I had entered a prompt that covered quite a lot with variations on compared to the original prompt about the action. In other words, I asked for my character to be flying. I also specified the emotion, asking for the character to look happy. I also requested a variation in the pose. I wanted to position myself a little lower compared to a straight-on camera angle relative to my original image. And as you can see, the result is actually quite satisfying. And I really get a surprisingly consistent character. I'll show you right away in the tool what it looks like. So right here, as you can see, I have uploaded my original base photo, and then the system analyzed it and kept the face intact. After that, I entered my specific prompt, and then I simply generated it. So here I had done several tests. And as you can see, the result is actually quite satisfying. So what are the limitations of the tool? I had to push a little bit when it came to the positions. That is to say, the tool tends to focus on the position. You see, my original photo is more or less facing the camera. And in my first attempts, the tool would kind of reproduce that same view. So I had to place a much stronger emphasis in my prompt about the position to capture a specific low-angle shot. One additional constraint to keep in mind is that it will definitely be visible in your photo. That is to say, it will only work. If your photo includes people, faces, there will be no reference, no character, it won't work. Finally, you should also be very careful if the photo you are going to use as a character reference contains several different characters. Let's imagine, for example, my little adventurer decided to take a picture with her dad and mom. If your prompt It doesn't provide a detailed explanation regarding the importance of one character over another. He, the character reference, will take one in particular. And you'll end up with some rather unusual and unexpected results, meaning that the dad and mom might have the same face as my character. So you'll have to experiment extensively with the wording of the prompt a bit to try and highlight or minimize the importance of the other characters. But finally, the final constraint that you need to keep in mind is that, of course, if you want to generate scenes with If you want to create entirely different characters, you'll obviously need to first completely remove and delete your character reference, and then upload a brand new reference photo where you have your other characters. Otherwise, the system will just keep using your main character. So please don't forget to make sure to properly erase everything here and re-upload another photo if you truly want to generate other types of images. There you go. I hope this tutorial has really helped you and that you've understood the importance of consistency for captivating the viewer. Now it's your turn. Good luck.